My husband and I have been married for over 10 years. While we were on a trip, I used his phone and saw a text message. Without thinking, I opened it. He had her saved under baby. What I saw next was a conversation I wish I hadn't. Baby gave me some candy last night. It was so sweet. On the second day of our trip to Y City, while using my husband's phone to order takeout, I saw this text message. I subconsciously opened the message. My husband had labeled her as good girl. I had heard that he often called their daughters good girl, but Tiana was only 7 years old and couldn't possibly have phone. So, my first reaction was, had my husband been hiding a secret daughter from me all these years? I clicked on her profile, and it was set to show only the last 3 days' posts. The only post was a silhouette of a woman under a sunset lamp, which I often saw on my students' social media. Caption: I always look so beautiful in Mr. Wilson's lens. At this point, I clearly realized, yes, my husband Magdalena, the man who had been in a relationship with me for 7 years in college and married for 7 years, had cheated on me. I wasn't willing to accept it, so I replied, "What was sweet?" 2 seconds later, the phone vibrated with a reply. "Everything about you is sweet." I held back my heartache and typed, "What kind of taste?" "It's the familiar taste of baby," followed by, "Are you waiting for Dad in room 201 today?" Room 201. The room number of the room Magdalena and I stayed in Y City was 202. Room 201 was right next to ours. Last night, he was with this woman in the room next to ours. I suddenly remembered the animated image I accidentally opened 2 months ago during class, showing him doing those things with another woman. At the time, he explained it was photoshopped by someone else. Now it seems there was more to the story. The morning after confirming that I had been betrayed, my student, Dylan Shields, looked at me. She could see my fatigue and asked, "Miss Wilson, did you not sleep well last night? Was the bed at my homestay uncomfortable?" I forced a smile and said, "No, I just arrived in Y City and am having a bit of trouble adjusting to the climate." Dylan continued, his tone laced with a bit of surprise. "Oh, I didn't expect you to have trouble adjusting. I saw Master just now, and he looked radiant." My heart was bitter. How could he not be glowing, having an affair right under my nose? What kind of woman could make the usually reserved and introverted Magdalena behave so recklessly, and even call him baby? "Dylan, there's something I need your help with." Dylan replied with a puzzled look. "What kind of help?" I took a deep breath, looked up at Dylan and said, "I suspect that Magdalena Wilson is having an affair." "Oh, this." Dylan was quite shocked. "Miss Wilson, you Master wouldn't do that. He treats you so well." Dylan could be considered my most outstanding student in all the years I've taught. She excelled academically and was beautiful. This homestay was the business she started last year after graduating and returning to her hometown to use her family's land. Back in B City, I often brought her along to work on projects and frequently invited her to our home for meals. She was like a friend and a family member, not just a student. I smiled bitterly. I saw it with my own eyes, the messages and the photos. He recently asked me for Tiana's education fund. Now I realize he wanted to use that money for that woman. Speaking of this, my breathing became difficult and rapid. Dylan frowned. "So what do you plan to do now, Miss Wilson?" "I want to know who stayed in room 201 the night before yesterday. Dylan, as the owner of this homestay, you should have access to the guest records." "Room 201? Dylan looked troubled. "Miss Wilson, did you make a mistake? No one stayed in room 201 last night." "What?" Dylan explained that room 201, due to poor plumbing during the initial renovation, was never converted into a guest room but instead used as a storage room for bedding and household items. So it was impossible for anyone to stay there, unless someone intentionally sneaked in. My heart sank. Without a record, Dylan couldn't help me. Just as I was losing all hope, Dylan said to me, "But don't worry, Miss Wilson. There are security cameras on every floor here. I'll check the footage for you, and we'll find out who that woman is soon." While Dylan was checking the video recordings, I was restless, feeling like I was sitting on pins and needles. During this seemingly endless afternoon, Magdalena returned. He pushed open the door, sweating lightly. "Wife, Dylan's homestay has such a great location. It's just a few steps to the scenic area. Why don't you go out and explore?" Looking at his face now, I felt sick to my stomach. "I'm tired, I'm going to sleep." "Don't, wife. Such a beautiful place. It's a pity to spend it sleeping," Magdalena said as he climbed onto the bed. I knew what he had in mind. We've been married for 7 years, and our child is 6 years old. Our marital life has plummeted in recent years. This kind of midday extra meal is extremely rare. His sudden change today only indicates 2 possibilities. First, he has someone else he's interested in, and he's not satisfied yet. Second, he has done something shameful and feels guilty.